Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Energetics Podcast. I am your host, Kara Bunde-Dunn, and today I'm going to do a little bit of what I call a tell-all story. So, some of you have been with me since the very beginning of this podcast and the beginning of my spiritual awakening journey, and some of you are newbies. So, I thought I would go back to the beginning and talk a little bit about my life, how my abilities awaken, and just help you realize I am just a regular, everyday person just like you, who happened to trust the nudges when they came. Granted, I ignored them for a really long time. So if that's you, don't worry. There's still hope for all of us. But learning how to trust the nudges and open myself up, and also recognize that each of us have our own divine timing for when we are meant to step into a more intuitive path. So I grew up in Minnesota. I love Minnesota. In fact, I am going for a couple of weeks at the beginning of July, if you're listening to this live and not listening to it in a different timeline. And I get to spend a couple of weeks up in northern Minnesota with the loons and the bald eagles and fishing and clean lakes and, all the beautiful things. It is literally my favorite place on the planet. It also happens to be a place that I feel deeply connected to spirit. I will sit on the dock, look out at the lake, and I just feel the presence of angels. And it's like that for all of us. We have places that are special and magical to us. And those places allow us to get into silence and stillness easier than other locations. So, northern Minnesota is one of those places for me in particular. So, I'm very excited to do that. I will also be taking a summer break. So I learned very quickly. You'll hear in my story of climbing the corporate ladder. I really prioritized making money and my title and my significance and my level of influence in the spaces that I was in. I prioritized that over what I really truly wanted in my heart. And so when I built this business almost 2 years ago, I said, I'm taking July off. I want to enjoy the time with my kiddo. She's 11 now. And before you know it, she's not going to want anything to do with me. She'll be like, bye, mom. Peace out. I'm over it. And so I really genuinely am like, I'm taking July off and some of August too until she starts school. And I'll start the podcast up probably in August or maybe September. But it gives you a chance to catch up on old episodes. If you're listening to this one, you can go back and listen to a few of my other favorites or most listened to episodes. In fact, I might send some emails out about that. But it gives you a chance to take a little bit of a break too. And I want to practice what I preach. I want to be embodied in a way where I say, this is what's important to me and what I feel like is coming through me. And then embodying that and not feeling like I'm supposed to or I should release an episode every week. It's not really what my heart wants to do. My heart wants to have seasons of growth, seasons of expansion, and seasons of this podcast. So this will be our last episode in season 3 before I start back up in the fall again with season 4. And so I thought, this is the episode. This is the one where I am just going to vulnerably tell my tell-all story. So I grew up in Minnesota. And I was a very precocious, wild, adventurous child. I was always playing in the dirt and the mud. I was always outside. I was always in Mother Nature. I mean, legit, always outside. And I really had a strong sense of self as a little one. Even so much as when I was 2, I slid down the banister in a fancy little frou-frou dress at church. It was like you had to walk up a flight of stairs into the actual chapel, whatever you want to call it. And so there was a banister down to a landing where you would then go downstairs into the basement of the church, one of those old Lutheran churches. And I freaking like 2 years old, like slid down the banister, like, whee! And I look back at that and I'm like, even at 2, I was like breaking out of the mold of what you're supposed to do. I was like, oh Lord. My poor mom. But I was like, nope, I'm going to have fun. You can't control me. Watch me slide down a banister at church. I'm sure people were like, oh my God, that crazy girl. What is she doing? Who are her parents? The best parents. That's who I have, by the way. And so I grew up going to a Lutheran church. We were very involved in our church. My dad ran the food bank pantry out of the church. He is a hairstylist, so he did that on his Mondays, on his days off. And, I grew up in youth group and church, and I was a camp counselor at a Lutheran camp and all of these things. And I had such a tie to purity culture, to good girl syndrome, to doing the right thing. My brother was a bit wild when he was young. I didn't want to be like that. I was like, oh God, I don't want to be in trouble. No, thank you. And so I really prioritized doing the right thing. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do it, but I felt a lot of internal pressure. Not necessarily pressure from my family, but I had this internal pressure. And I look back at that now and I recognize that's part of my karmic lesson. That's a huge part of what I was meant to overcome in this lifetime, of this like good girl syndrome, people pleasing, doing the right thing, wanting approval from others, all of those kinds of things. So I got married very young to somebody that I went to high school with. We did not work out, and it's not his fault, but I recognize now that I chose that, and I chose a person to really deeply learn how to stand up for myself, because I prioritized his needs and what was important to him, and I didn't prioritize my own. I just thought, well, if you love somebody and do everything that they need, they will in turn do that back for you, which they don't. It happens to be that isn't true. So, I didn't have sex until I was married. I had a very, purity culture grow up in that way. But I did study abroad in India, and that changed a lot of things for me, because I remember being at a Hindu temple and walking out of that temple a couple of weeks into my journey as a 19-year-old kid and going, why, God? Why would all of these people go to hell? That seems pretty bad. Like, they're lovely people. They're celebrating what they define as God. And this seems pretty shitty. Like, what is going on? This can't be real. And that was a huge start for me of learning how to listen to what felt authentic to me versus what I was told by the way that I was raised, by the Lutheran church that I went to, the Lutheran school that I went to, all of the things. And at the end of that trip in India, I left being like, that's bullshit. God, you are everywhere. I have never felt closer to God than in India, genuinely. I recognize now that I have a past life there, so that also makes sense. Didn't know that at the time because I was pretty naive and young. But I remember climbing to the top of a mountain in India, where, like, not a big mountain, but we hiked to the top of this mountain. And for a split second, I would say maybe 5 or 10 seconds, I looked out, and it was towards the end of our trip. And I looked out at nature. I looked out, you could see a little cityscape in the side. And I felt like I was one with God. I truly felt like I was walking heaven on earth, and all was right in the world. My mind wasn't racing. I wasn't trying to understand the place of Christianity in the world. I was literally just being a pure channel. I was a 19-year-old kid, and I felt so calm. And I had this huge tingling sensation come over me. I'm going to cry right now. And I felt so at peace. I just felt so at peace. It didn't last forever. And then I went back into like, oh gosh, we probably should walk back down. We got to get back to the bus. We got to, and all the things that your mind does as a human. But for those moments, all was right in the world. And I felt a pure divine connection. And I thought, well, if this is wrong, I don't want to be right, because this is beautiful. This is magical. Like, this is what I was meant to feel. And it shifted everything for me. I was like, there's no way being Hindu is wrong. There's no way being Buddhist is wrong. There's no way that, 80% of the world is not a pure, beautiful soul. And I just changed everything in the way that I was thinking and believing and all of the things, right? So I get back from India, get married, moved to Nebraska, where I live now. And I'm married to my husband, Alex, and we have our kiddo, and all is right in the world. It all worked out like it was supposed to. But I got married. My ex-husband went to law school here. We didn't work out for a lot of reasons. But if I ask myself truly, honestly, what was my lesson meant to learn in that? It was meant to stand up for myself, to live into my own truth, to speak up for what I want in the world, and not be such a people pleaser. Because I married him because I thought that I was supposed to. And it seemed like a good idea to marry a lawyer and somebody that did love me and care about me and that I could just like lift them up and I could help them have a great life, which then in turn would help me have a great life. But I was miserable, absolutely miserable. And I resented him. I chose to be there and I chose to support his dreams and put everything I wanted to do on hold. But I resented him for it in a huge way. And I rebelled and I was like, I'm not doing this. Get me out of here, all the things. And I went on a bit of a wild streak, like, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in anything. I'm not ever getting married again. I'm just going to go, I'm not teaching anymore. I'm going to go climb the corporate ladder. I'm going to go make something of myself. I'm never going to depend on anyone for anything. Like, check me out. And I had this kind of like, go, make it happen kind of thing. And it started my climb. So I started as a public school teacher, left teaching after 5 years, and then climbed the corporate ladder. And boy, did I. I met my husband during that time. We got married in Colorado. It was a beautiful, beautiful wedding. Just our immediate family. Like no big hoopla wedding like I had the last time. It was like 20 people, just our immediate family. And I'm so grateful we did it that way, genuinely. And then, I really was on a mission to break some money mindset challenges that I had. I had watched my parents struggle all the time to be fiscally responsible and financially stable. And I didn't recognize it when I was young, but when you're older and you look back, you recognize it and you can see the limiting beliefs that are around money and the way I was raised. And I was raised in this mindset of you have to work really, really hard to get what you want in life. Nothing comes easy. And if you're not working hard, you're lazy, you're a piece of shit, and you're just, you're not reaching your full potential. And it wasn't like that was said. It was just that was what was modeled in my household, in my grandparents, like in my family members. Like it was just modeled that like you're really lazy if you don't work 80 hours a week. And I would go through stints where I would work crazy hours and then I would crash and be like, I don't want to do any of this. I don't want to do any of this. I'm like so over this. I don't want to do any of this. But I would keep going and going and going and going. And in that process, I gained a lot of weight. I was the heaviest I ever was. And I was at the highest level I have ever been in my career as a chief sales officer. I went from manager to director to VP to senior vice president to chief officer, boom, 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 boom. Like, go, Kara, go, 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 go. I lived in United lounges, drinking champs, cheese and crackers, meatballs, carrots and dip, whatever they had at the United lounge was often what I had for dinner. And I thought I was kind of cool. I was like, my little Prada sunglasses and my like designer bags and, living what I thought was life in the fast lane. And, for me, it was the most amount of money I had ever made. And it allowed my husband to stay at home with our daughter for almost 3 years and be a stay-at-home dad. It was really cool to be able to do that. But everything inside of me was like, start your own company, do your own thing. And for like 10 years, that was me. I deeply, deeply wanted to do that. I just didn't know what I would do. I was like, what would I do actually? What would I really do if I started a company? And I just didn't know. So I thought, well, I'm not going to leave everything that I know and the safety and stability of everything that I have to go do something I don't even know what I would want to do. But I did decide around 35, at this time I was probably a senior vice president in a company. And I was like, Kara, you are burning the candle at both ends. You got a little kid at home. You're freaking miserable. And I will never forget when this moment happened for me. So I was climbing the ladder, doing the things. And I will never forget, I missed my flight trying to get home on a Friday night to see my kiddo and tuck her into bed. And she was little, probably like 2 or 3. So this is almost 10 years ago. And I was in Southern California in the Denver airport, and I was like running, from one end of the gates to the other end of the gates, trying to catch a little plane to Lincoln, Nebraska. And I got to our gate and the plane was pulling away. And I fell to my knees at that airport and cried. And I was like, I'm not getting home to my baby. I promised her I would get home, and I'm not going to get home. I can't tuck her into bed. I broke my promise to my kiddo. And I thought, what in the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Come on, girl. What are you doing? And I decided I wanted to manage my stress better. I still wasn't on like a deeply spiritual path yet, but I did say I don't want to live in chaos. Like, I don't want to be defined by the number of hours that I work. I want to have a quality of life that I'm proud of. And I did start exercising, prioritizing myself, managing my stress, lots of personal growth. Oh man, I went down a Rachel Hollis track where it's been fun watching her journey, by the way, if anybody follows her, seeing her like awaken into her intuition as well. But I was like, my morning routine and my gratitude practice and goals as if they've already accomplished them and all of these things and meditating and I really started like just trying to be a more centered and aware person. And then something very significant happened. So our daughter was an IVF baby, and we had she started as twins. And we lost one partway through our pregnancy. And so I always say she is like the personality of two kids, but she literally probably is. And it was super hard, really hard. But it also was like holding gratitude for the fact that we got to be parents, that we got to have this kid. So I was very grateful. I wanted to be a mama so, so, so bad. But then, I was going on this personal growth journey. I had my kiddo at home. We're doing good, and I was like so at peace. Like, I love my job. I'm learning how to prioritize my stress. I've got a little 2-year-old at home. Life is good. Like, she's almost 3. Like, we're doing great. Like, our marriage is doing good. We're doing good. Like, I was really proud of us. We're doing pretty dang good. And during that time, we managed to get pregnant on our own. And I didn't know that that was possible. And I thought, oh my God, this is crazy. So, of course, you have fear. Like, am I going to be able to carry this baby? This hasn't been a journey for us before. Oh my God, can we do this? And I got through the first trimester. And I was a senior vice president at the time, 9 departments rolling up to me. And, I was managing my stress and I was in a happier place. And maybe that's why I got pregnant. And I thought, oh my God, this is so crazy. But I had a little fear in the back of my throat, like that is a shoe going to drop? Is something bad going to happen? But I kept going and I kept going and I kept going and I made it through the first trimester. And I thought, holy shit, we're going to have 2 kids. This is so freaking cool. And then I told all of my team leaders, like, hey, I'm pregnant. Yay. And I was in my late 30s and I'm like, this is so crazy. I can't believe it. Oh my God. And that very night I started miscarrying. And I won't get into the graphics, but if you are someone that has had a miscarriage and it's been a pretty painful one, maybe not late pregnancy, but after your first trimester, it's pretty painful and it's pretty traumatic what takes place inside your body and what's coming out of your body. And I was weeping and crying, and we went to the emergency room, and there's no amount of pain that I could work through. I was essentially like, miscarrying, like you're contracting and birthing out what's not meant to be inside of you anymore. And I was devastated. And I literally said, God, why did you do this to me? Why? I was so happy. I was managing my stress. I was learning how to climb the corporate ladder in a better, healthier way. I have this beautiful child. I have this wonderful marriage. I have this life I'm really proud of. Like, why the hell would you do this to me? I didn't even ask for another baby. I was insanely grateful for the one that I got. So why are you doing this to me? And I was very in this victim mindset, this happened to me. It's unfair. And we all have those moments where that is real, right? Where we're like, this isn't fair. Like, why did this happen to me? Like, this happened to me, right? And that was hard. I was pretty depressed. I knew that I was a genuinely happy person. So I was like just in a fog. And I didn't recognize at the time that that was my spiritual awakening, that that was the moment that everything would change. That I had been doing these things leading up to that moment to manage my stress better, to tap into personal growth, Brendan Burchard, all the things. But I really, really wasn't embodying a deeply spiritual path yet. And a friend of mine said, "Why don't you go to a medium?" And I was like, "I don't know if I believe in mediums, but I'll think about it." So I thought about it, slept on it, prayed on it. And the next morning I thought, if there's a spot, I'll go. This lady lives in Colorado. She's originally from Nebraska, Rebecca Rosen. She's been on my pod. Go check out that episode. One of my favorite episodes is getting a chance to interview her. It was really magical for me personally. And she had one spot left on her last group reading. So I thought, okay, I'm going to go. I'm going to go. So I went and it changed my life. My grandpa, my dad's dad, came through. I got to have a lot of healing around the loss of my babies. And it just felt like, wow, this person is like an angel on earth, and she can channel messages and she can help me with so many things. And I feel connected in a way I hadn't felt before. And it changed my life genuinely. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. Like, angels are all around us. I am being guided and helped, and there's a reason this happened, and I have to just open my heart to this. And maybe there is a better way to live, and maybe there is a way to connect to God, spirit, source, universe. Maybe there is more to it than what I have like written off from my childhood. And it genuinely changed my life. And I went to her every year, probably once a year for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of getting readings. And then about 5 years ago, so it had to have been about 4 or 5 years, about 5 years ago, I had a reading with her. And she said, "Okay, Kara, I'm supposed to tell you that you can do this too." I'm like, "Do what?" She's like, "You can be a medium, either for yourself or for others. You can do this as a career. Like, this is absolutely like what's next on your path. And you get to decide. You have free will. You get to decide how you want this to show up for you and how you want to embody being a medium." And I was like, "That's freaking banana pants. Like, holy shit, no." Like, what are you talking about, crazy? I'm not a medium. I'm a corporate executive. I'm a working mom and a PTO mom and a, you know, like suburban mom. Like, come on. There's a lot of identities I can own, but spiritual medium is not one of them. You got to be shitting me. And I just was like, so in shock. Like, no way. There's no way. There's no freaking way that that's real. But I did the things that she said to do in terms of high frequency music and meditating and connecting in nature and journaling and how to set up automatic writing sessions, and like did all the things that she told me to do. And things started to change. And when I say things started to change, what I mean is like, I could open my eyes and just barely, and I could see little flutters of energy and color. Like when you just barely squint, and I could see ripples of color. I can see a little bit right now. And I was like, whoa, what's that? What's that? It's like a kaleidoscope in my eyes. Oh my God, that's so cool. And then I started feeling things, tingles in my body, the presence of energy I couldn't understand. And I wasn't making it up. I was like, no, I feel something. I feel tingles in my body. What in the heck is that? Oh my God. And then after a couple of weeks of doing the things that she told me to do, I started feeling the presence. I could feel, and it really started with my grandpa and his grandparents, Frank and Marie. His mom and dad came through too. And I was like, "Frank, who's Frank?" And I was like, "My dad's Frank. Oh my God, it's my great grandpa Frank." And Marie, like, what do they want to know? And they're literally just like letting me know they're around me. And I was like, whoa, okay, that's scary. And it was like I had a note app on my phone, and I was like scrolling through it, and I was just like scribbling at first and just scribbling out whatever was coming through. And then I was also just like, writing like with my finger, like yes or no, or things like that, like just kind of drawing what was coming through for me. I will actually show you. Like it started like this, right? Like just scribbly whatevers. And this was just how messages started channeling through to me. Right. And this is all yes, no, in old school cursive, if you can see that. Yes, no, yes. And I was asking all sorts of questions. So it started like this as this notes app, which is just crazy to me that I kept this. And then like it just felt, I just scribble and draw and write and feel energy and feel connection. And like that is how it started. And then I was like, okay, I'm getting out a notebook. We're doing this thing for real, for real, for real. And that is when like I got deep, deep downloads. And that was like in November. It'll be 5 years in November of when that happened. So 4.5, almost 5 years ago. And I was like, holy shit. Oh my God, I can talk to spirit. I can talk to my loved ones in spirit. I can connect with angels. Like, this shit is real. Oh my God, I can do it. I can do it. And it was just insane, absolutely insane. But of course, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't really want, I just didn't really want to like, I didn't know how to talk about it. That's probably the most honest way to say it. I didn't know how to talk about it because I knew people would have questions that I would not have answers for. And so I kind of kept it to myself. But I did over time get little assignments from Spirit where they would tell me, like, tell someone, like your neighbor, can you just tell your neighbor that you had a dream about their mother and that there's something going on in her colon and to go check it out, like weird shit like that, where they would tell me things, but then they would tell me to say like, I had a dream just to keep it safe for me. And then slowly but surely, I started to tell people. I told my parents, I told my husband. Boy, have we come a long way as it relates to this topic. And he was like, I don't know what you want me to say. And he's come on my podcast, and we actually talk about a lot of this in our episode. It was earlier this year. So I think it's like episode 30 something. So go check that one out, like with my husband, Alex. But we really just like went on a journey together. And he wasn't very open or receptive at first. But he wasn't closed off either. He was just really quiet. And I interpreted that as like judging me and assuming I was crazy and all the things he didn't say. But in my head, I thought he was saying just by his silence. And it was hard. It was super hard on our relationship. And I'm very grateful we didn't give up on each other and that we kept pursuing this connection and understanding of each other. And I'm really, really genuinely, like, if I could give you one piece of advice, if you're in a different page than your partner, you don't grow in a linear line and they don't either. So try to give them a little grace and a little space to come into their own and to have their own journey of what spirituality means for them. Just allow them to have that come through for them in whatever way. Whatever grace you want them to give you, give it to them first. That's probably the best way to say it. Like, model what you would want them to do for you by you showing up for them in that way. And so then I started doing readings for people. I joined a meditation group, an international meditation group. And I just said in the Facebook group, like, hey, I have these abilities. I think if anybody would want a reading, let me know. And my first like 5 readings were for people all over the world. And I was like, oh my God, this lady in Canada, this lady in the UK, another lady in Europe, a lady in Australia. Like, it was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Like, I'm doing readings for people all over the world for real. And it felt so free to use these abilities to help other people. Again, at the time, I was a chief sales officer of a company, so I didn't need to charge. I really didn't. But after a couple of years of doing that, my team in Spirit was like, okay, it's now an energetic exchange in which you need to learn to accept somebody wanting to pay you for the value you're providing them. Probably did hundreds of readings before that. And so then I did start charging, and I was so terrified. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to charge. I don't want to charge. What if I do a bad job? And I felt the pressure of charging to use my abilities. It felt like I was putting too much pressure on myself, but I did it anyway because they told me to, which is kind of how fear works, isn't it? You got to just like step through it. And if you just sit and think about it, it only gets worse. You got to just take action and step through the fear. And so I started doing readings for people. And then I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I'm meant to be helping people in this way. But for me personally, doing readings is incredibly taxing on my human body, which is really an indicator for me that I'm not meant to do them forever or do them full time. So I thought, well, what would I do so that I could do some readings and help people, but then also teach them? So I developed a leadership course on, using your intuition in corporate leadership called a Karmic Leader program, hence the name of my company, Karmic Leader. And then I developed a Connecting with Spirit course, which I would say is like Intuition 101. It's really helping people understand how they can create their own meaningful connection with their team in spirit, their guides, their loved ones, their angels, source, God energy, all of it. And it was everything that I learned. And I asked my team, like, what the heck? How do I make sense of this? How do I organize it? And they gave me this beautiful framework of release, raise, receive. So, how do you release what doesn't serve you? That's a huge step in this awakening journey. How do you raise your vibration to get into a place where you can meet them in the middle and align closer to their vibrational energy state? And then, how do you receive intuitive guidance? How do you learn how to listen? So, how do you learn how to ask? And then, how do you learn how to listen? So, everything that I teach is inside of those frameworks. So, I developed the super cool course called Connecting with Spirit. You can buy it on my website right now. I think it's like just under $500 or something like that. I think it's like $497 if I'm remembering correctly. And I love the course. I think it's beautiful. It's like 50 some lessons. It's an introduction to spirituality. It's how to raise, how to release, how to receive, and then what to do next. So once you learn the framework and the methodology and the techniques, then how do you keep going? What to do next? It's got like 10 or 15 meditations in it. It's a really cool course and I'm really proud of it. And then I thought, okay, I really, really, really want to create community. I love teaching this course. I taught it twice. But at the end, I'm like, okay, bye, everybody. Good luck. And everybody was like, I want to keep going. I want to keep connecting with you. I want to keep talking to each other. And I felt like there was more. There was more that was meant to be. I just didn't have I didn't have the structure of what I wanted it to be, but I knew I wanted to create a community. So this year, just a few months ago, 3 months ago, I launched my energetics mentorship community so that I could do just that. I could mentor people and we could be in community together. And by the way, when you join during one of my launches into my community, you get my $500 course for free. You can buy it or you can join the community and get it for free, which is really cool. And it's really something I'm so proud of, this community that I'm building. And it feels so aligned and so centered in what I'm meant to be doing. And I love the energy of connecting with a community and being on a frequency together, raising our vibration together, learning how to connect with spirit and angel energy and understanding our own frequency and, all the things that are part of a spiritual path because you're never there. You never just arrive. And it has been a really, really cool journey for me. And we're just getting started. That's the cool part. We're just getting started. And I feel so centered and so aligned that like this is what I'm meant to be doing. This is it. And it feels so beautiful. And it was a huge part of me like listening to things that felt aligned without making big changes in my life. So I think when people are like, oh, okay, I'm ready. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I never made big sweeping changes. I really, truly didn't. I was like, okay, let me embody that. Let me live into that for a year or two and see how that feels before I take the next big step. And I have always trusted spirit to give me signs of what is the right next step for me and being in alignment with that. But I truly, truly let spirit be in the driver's seat. Like when I was meant to leave the corporate job, well, I pushed back a little. Let's be honest. I'll tell that story real quick. So I was a chief sales officer. I was doing, 2 years more, 3 years of doing mediumship readings. Like pretty much the whole time I worked there, I was a medium. And so I did readings the whole time I was there. And about 6 months before we parted ways, myself and that company, I was ready. And I had a reading with Rebecca Rosen because I wanted some validation outside of my own connection with my guides. Even though I had my own relationship and my guides were telling me yellow light, wait. I wanted to get validation from Rebecca. I was like, well, maybe she has access to like superpower angels that I don't have access to, and they have like a different timeline for me. Let me just see what she says. She goes, yeah, I'm getting that you're meant to start your own company like now. Like now. Like you're meant to start working on it now, but don't quit your job. And I was like, dang it. That's what my guides are telling me too. Shit. And that was like March of 2020, right? And then you're like, oh, wow. Okay. And then is that, no, sorry. March of 2023. March of 2023. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll wait. So I waited. I joined an entrepreneurial group called Business by Design. I started learning the entrepreneurial way. I started thinking about what I would want to name my company and what I might do. And I thought, you know what? I will teach spiritual practices to corporate people, which is really what I started to do. It isn't what I'm doing now, but it is what I started to do. I do that one-on-one, and I coach people that are in the business world that want a more aligned and intuitive pathway for themselves while being in the business world, and they want an executive coach that is also spiritually centered. If that's you, then I might be a good fit for you in that way. And so I do that still. But I really felt like, okay, I was ready. And my team said no. And I was like, dang it anyway. So I guess I'll learn, I'll grow, I'll figure it out. And then it was July of 2023. So we're coming closely up on 2 years to that date. And Alex's grandmother was really sick. Zara is named after her. She is a powerful spirit right now, on the other side. And she was nearing the end of her life. And she peacefully passed away on July 25th, I believe it was. And that day, the CEO of my company called me and said, "Hey, Kara, you've done an extraordinary job for us, but we are not wanting to grow at the same path. And frankly, we can't afford you. And so today's your last day." And I was like, wait, what? Am I getting fired? What is going on? Like, is this for real? And he said, "We have a severance for you." And I said, and my guides literally said, like, "You're welcome." Like in the corner of my eye, "You're welcome." Like, oh, this is why I couldn't quit, because they were going to give me a severance. Got it. Check, check. Which is what started my company. I used all that money to incorporate, to build my brand, to build my website, to launch the brand out into the world, all the things. And so that is why I wasn't meant to quit. And then my husband went back to work because he was a stay-at-home dad, and he went back to the corporate world so that we could have a steady paycheck and health insurance and all the things. And he's thriving and doing a phenomenal job. And I am so grateful for him providing for our family in that way, to allow me to embody this entrepreneurial pathway and build my brand up the way that I am. And so that was a crazy moment, because I knew that spirit was behind it, and I knew that I was meant to get this severance and to be able to use it to start my company. But it also felt really weird. Like, hey, I worked hard and I did a good job for you. Like, why are you letting me go? Like, your ego gets involved and wants to like still be like, yeah, but I'm awesome. What are you doing, you idiots? But I didn't want to be there. I really, truly didn't. It was not a good fit for me, especially the last year. A lot of changes to the executive team, and I no longer felt like I fit in there. And I mean, it was definitely time for them and for me both. And so I'm grateful that it all went down the way that it did. But I did have to do some releasing, because I felt like the husband and wife that owned that company, I had some resentment towards them, and I really needed to get that out of my energetic field. So I had to shout out the anger, and I went out in the yard and screamed and howled and did all the things to get that energy out of me, which I'm grateful that I did. I feel really good about that now. But I really did have to release some of that, so that I could step into my new alignment. And that is kind of how it works for all of us. We go through these transitions where it feels really heavy and dark right before the dawn. And so if you're feeling like that, like you're in a fog, you're fatigued, you're tired, you don't feel like you fit in your life, like what is going on, you're probably on the verge of a really cool breakthrough. So stick with it, stay authentic in your journey, and keep going. And then I started my company when that happened for me, and I got let go, and they laid me off, gave me a severance, did the things. I waited until my severance check cashed, which was about 2 weeks later, right? And the day that it cashed, I published my website and changed my LinkedIn profile and did everything. Like, that's how hard I hustled. I was like, okay, 2 weeks, let's go. I hired my assistant. I hired a marketing, graphics person to help me bring the brand to life. And we freaking went. And then within 2 weeks, boom, ready to go. And I was like, so proud of myself. I'm like, okay, honey, the check is in the account. They can't take it away. And then I went publish on the website. I was like, this is great. And it was just like such divine timing. It was so crazy and so cool. And I haven't looked back. It'll be 2 years in August. So we're nearing, it's been a year and 10 months on this journey of starting Karmic Leader and this company. It's been, over a year doing this podcast. And I'm just so grateful and so proud of the life that I have now. And I feel so connected to being my full authentic self. And it wasn't for the faint of heart. A lot of friendships shifted, changed. My neighbors sometimes look at me funny. Don't care. But I wasn't for the faint of heart to step into this aligned, authentic path. And I recognize that for many, many years of my life, I let fear dictate that. Because what if it all falls apart? What if I lose my job? What if this happens? What if that happens? You're like, well, what if it does happen? So what? Keep going. And I feel so grateful that I get to serve this community, that you are listening to this episode, that we are in community together. And I am like beyond grateful for the life that I have right now. And if you want to learn how to talk to your guides, how to create your own meaningful connection, I have a Talk to Your Guides workshop. It's like 60 to 90-minute workshop where I teach you some elements of the framework. And this is free. It's my gift to you to come in and to start shifting your perspective. And my guides told me, Kara, like you're going to help thousands of people learn how to connect their own relationships with their own team and spirit. So just listen to the guidance, follow the path, and trust that you are doing everything you're supposed to be doing. So that's why I create my free tools. That's why I have this podcast, which is also free content. It is just why that I am in this frequency and energy of sharing my story and being in community with all of you. So in the show notes, check it out on my website in the karmicleader.com/resources. You can go check it out there. I've got a new one coming up at the end of June. I'll have another one in August. So come in. Be in community, learn together, show up, see what shifts for you, see what happens. Like, go for it. Let's do this thing together. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being on this journey with me. And until we start season 4, go back and binge some of your favorite episodes or go back and listen to a few of the ones you didn't get a chance to listen to yet. And stay on the journey with me, my friends. Until then, I love you.